lounging, son.
Alright guys, welcome to another episode of The Short Box. My name's Ryan, and today we're going to be talking about Hardware. Now this comic was the first book to launch from Milestone Comics. For those of you that don't know about Milestone, Milestone was an imprint founded by Dwayne McDuffie, Derek Dingle, Denys Cowan, and Michael Davis. They created Milestone, basically to address the lack of representation of minorities in mainstream comics. And this was fully theirs. It was their imprint, but it was distributed through DC, which is why you'll see the DC logo up at the top. But they had full control for the most part. I don't think there was too much DC editorial. I mean, I could be wrong. Who knows? But yeah, they launched a bunch of books. Hardware was the launch book. They also did Blood Syndicate, Icon, which was like their Superman archetype, Shadow Cabinet, Zombie, Cobalt, and of course, probably their best known character, which was Static, aka Static Shock, which went on to have a pretty huge animated series. And, so today I'll probably cover all the number ones. I'll talk about some of the other titles, but I figured, I had done the interview I've interviewed Denys Cowan 3 times now, a couple times for the site. There's one on the YouTube channel as well that I'll link in this video. But I wanted to talk about Hardware. It was actually my first Milestone comic that I picked up. Static came later, and I loved this book from the get-go. This is kind of the Iron Man archetype. He's a genius and an inventor. He creates his own suit, but it becomes so much more than that. But let's jump into this. So first off, writer was the late great Dwayne McDuffie. Denys Cowan was a penciler. Jimmy Palmiotti is on inks. Noel Giddings, color artist. Janice Chang, letterer. Now, one of the standouts to this is not just Denys Cowan's art, which I'm a huge fan of and always have been, but Noel Giddings' coloring on this was unlike most of what you were seeing in mainstream as well at the time. Much like Image would do with their coloring, Milestone was also ahead of the curve, a painted style, which was very cool. Now we open the book up, and this is our character as a young kid. We're being narrated by Curtis Metcalf, who is Hardware, and we, talks about how his bird would constantly try to escape, and it basically is talking about being trapped and not being able to, be free, which, they touch on a lot in the Milestone comics. They touch on a lot of social issues, social justice stuff, and they went places that you did not see in Marvel or DC. I love the design of Hardware too. And like I said, the messages that the lesson is clear. Escape is impossible until one perceives all of the barriers. The stories in here are deeper than most comics at the time, and definitely more than stuff that I was reading. And again, the design is badass. The intricacies of his armor, it's not a sleek design like Iron Man's. It's got all the gizmos and gadgets off on the side. And he's being hunted, and we're not led to believe why he's being hunted, but obviously he makes quick work of all these helicopters that are fucking attacking him. And before we jump in, look, just to show you guys what else was happening in comics, this is the famous Nightfall storyline where Batman got his back broken. A year or so, I think, after Image launched, because this came out in '93. So things were getting a little bit more, dark in the comic scene, a little more, guns, pouches, all that stuff. But the art for me is just so phenomenal in this book. basically the editorial. They're talking about Milestone, what's going to come next, a little bit of what they're about, which is very cool to like go back and look at now and seeing where they ended up. And here we got Curtis taking off his suit. Very advanced technology. And, you know, talks about having this chip on his shoulder and being very angry. And, you know, him growing up in the neighborhood he did and being so smart, he immediately goes and gets kind of taken under the wing of Edwin Alva, who is definitely not legit, not on the up and ups, kind of a douchebag. And he discovers Curtis as a young boy who wins a science fair and sees the genius in him as a 12-year-old kid, and basically wants him to invent for him. And he continues to make money off of Curtis's inventions and stuff, and he gets pays through his college and stuff, but it's all for selfish reasons. And this infuriates Curtis. He's never getting what he thinks he deserves. And, you know, he can't even leave. In his contract, he can't work for the competitor, so he's basically stuck working for Alva. He creates his suit, and he fights him in a different way instead of like in the office, you know. And again, dude, just Denys Cowan is one of the best artists in the industry. I don't think anybody can argue that. I love Jimmy Palmiotti's inks on his pencils. I think he gives it just a little bit of a different look than, say, like when Bill Sienkiewicz inks him, which gives it a more frenetic energy. This is a little bit cleaner. And I think it's, you know, and so he can't work for the competitor. What does he do? He uses Alva's equipment to build his hardware suit. I love the design of it. This like shell that encapsulates his entire body so you can't see who he is. And I love this particular page was always really dope to me, even as a, you know, now when I was a kid, just the way the suit is coming together. He's basically fighting these hired soldiers that Alva's sending after him. And it ends on a cliffhanger with this dude that like clones himself or something and replicates himself. But, you know, and it continues this, like, I think in the next few issues he ends up going after this guy that's killing prostitutes and stuff. And these are the types of stories that will continue throughout the entire Milestone line. And then we get the preview of Blood Syndicate, and there's a whole thing that happens that gives some of the people in Dakota, because it's called the Dakotaverse, and they get powers through the Big Bang. Static is one of them. A lot of the people in the Blood Syndicate, and we get some of the names of the people that are going to be in Blood Syndicate in here. A little tease. And there you go. There's the first cover. But yeah, this line, just flip through this again. It's the Milestone universe of comics was such a great line, so ahead of its time. I think now more than ever, as I said with Dennis when I talked to him, it needs a comeback. It's long overdue. It's been mired with all this, legalities. I know there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes that maybe we all don't know, but I think now is the time. Milestone needs to come back. It's needed in the comic industry. There's never been a more perfect opportunity for these books to come out. I don't know if it's DC. I don't know if it's, what the reason for the holdup is, but bottom line is, let's see it come back. There's a lot of fans that will come out to support it. I wouldn't mind it going to like an Image, but I know that it's going to come out through DC or not at all. So DC, anybody over there, if you're listening, let's go. Wake up. Bring back the Milestone universe. We all love it. We all want to see it. So those are, just some of my thoughts on hardware. Like I said, I'll continue. I'm probably going to go through all the number ones: Icon, Blood Syndicate, and Static. At least those three. If you like what you saw and you want to see some more stuff like this, make sure you follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at The Comic Lounge. You can drop some comments below. You can email us at thecomicloungepod@gmail.com. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you're notified every time we put up a new one of these. And you can also find our podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and all your favorite podcast providers. And on that note, I'm out.